So that's the first teaching, and for you, well, I can see you've got that one, you know. For us, the predeceased, what this means is that the way, the ground of being present to Helen's continuing love is through sensation, is through the cosmos, okay? And what this means, and this is real important teaching that I'll come back to, it is the natural reflex of the small self, the little human being, precisely the human being that dies when the body dies, to remember by thinking about something that's not here anymore and thinking how it was better, and then that immediately sends off grief, and that's all the natural work of the small self, and it's not false, but it's limited. The larger self remembers in exactly the way the word says, remembering, reconnecting itself, putting the members back together, and you remember by renewed intimacy, not by nostalgia. You know, so it's not, oh, that Helen, she was a good egg. How I miss her. That is once again the legitimate yearning of the small self. And the small self is a part of our large self, so it's not to be denied. But nor is it to be given complete will or complete sway, because it's not the whole story. We remember in sensation the ground that we step on, the bread that we break, the air that we breathe has Helen in it as part of the pancosmos. And as we become quiet and grounded in sensation, and I know this from Rafe, the presence of the person who has attained personhood beyond the body, which Helen has, presents itself and impresses itself in our quiet heart and our sensate, grounded body as a quality of presence that has the same emotional signature as we're now experiencing with you now. You've hit that place where you can already give us the foretaste of that. So for those of us who are living as your handmaidens, that will find you by A, being quiet, B, stopping story, C, being grounded in the body and in the basic sensate awareness and a quiet conviction that nothing falls out of God and that you're here. And then we'll find you. And you can find us through those quiet portals. And to the extent that we can be quiet in the certainty of Helen's continued presence, it'll make your work easier. Okay. So that's our part. The other thing that I spoke with John and Helen about a little bit this morning is learning to ride the bucking bronco of yearning. And this was one of my most surprising learnings after Rafe died. That at first, you know, I would feel this stabbing yearning, and it was grounded in nostalgia, as it always typically is at the beginning. He's gone, and I want him so much. And then all of a sudden, as I started paying attention, I would notice some days that it wasn't me that was starting the yearning. It was his yearning for me. And I got to the point that I could tell the difference, and then I began to see what's really the bottom line. That yearning is a tether. It's a bridge on which love crosses between the realms. And so as you learn to bear yearning, at first it's really unpleasant, and because it feels insatiable, and because you can't consummate it, you think, oh, I got to stop it or repress it. But just dig deeper and bear yearning. And if you can bear it deeply enough, you'll see that it is a sacramental bridge of presence. So don't be afraid of it. And don't stuff your grief. Because, we were talking again with Helen and John, that Helen has set the baseline really, really high in this passage, in terms of consciousness, in terms of love, in terms of all these things, and has called all of us to a clarity and a trust and a grace that's bigger than what many of us can sustain on our own. So if it starts to crack, don't figure that you're a failure and you've betrayed Helen. Cracking is just as Leonard Cohen said, that's how the light gets through. And just let the cracking happen, but know the light will come through. So we need to bring our honesty. We need to bring our sense of failure as well as our sense of, oh, well, I'm doing this really well. To make this time in this passage honest, receptive, and tender. So that's some of what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I know about the soul beyond death, and the one thing I know about the soul beyond death is that it grows. And this is very, very hard for us to figure out here in this world, because for us, growth is a dimension of time. And if there isn't any more time, then it looks like things can't grow anymore. But that's only because in this realm, we consider that growth is a dimension of time. Growth is really a function of love, and it's the nature of love to grow and to grow things. And I think that we'll explore that, that what I've discovered in my journey with Rafe, and I don't know whether this is prototypic or simply Rafe, but that in the beginning phase, however long that lasts, intimacy is easy. And there's a real sense that seems to come from both sides of establishing comfort so that we get used to things, a lot of reassurance, a lot of showing up to reassure people that are heartbroken that I'm fine, there's nothing wrong. After a while, people settle down and they get used to it. They get more up to speed about sensing presence in a kind of continuing, almost as natural as breathing. So there's less energy that has to go into maintaining the relationship, just like when you've been married to someone you love deeply and you trust them enough that, and at that, it begins to enter a more transpersonal space where you really get down to the work. And I've found, at least in Rafe, who's been 17 years down the pipe with this, that there's a space widening, that there comes a point where we no longer wish to carry personhood. You know, that even this beautiful thing that is fully attained, at some point becomes, you just feel it in your heart one day as, we don't need that anymore. Why have the veil between the sun and, and but that's never taken away from you, and that personhood lasts, like everything lasts in the spiritual life, as long as it's helping. And helping means furthering the work of love, furthering the work of conscious servanthood. Typically, from my experience, is that when two people embark on a eternal marriage such as you have, the abler soul, the person will hold you both at least till you're the end of your physical life, John. And that the personhood of Helen is something we'll know and sense. But it may not last forever. So don't get thinking that well, I've attained to some final sterling thing that's never going to change. It's, where there's life, there's growth. So anything can happen. And part of the work and even part of the danger in what I'm doing today is I hope everyone will hold this lightly, because things can be really different. That my best shot would be to say that based on the configuration of what's happened, what the last year and a half of your life has looked at, that where you're going is that you'll be actively involved, at least for a while, in working in this conscious circle of humanity, helping things that you have loved so much on this planet and tended so faithfully on this planet to come to fruit 100-fold of what they can by simply human beings in their bodies working. And my best take is that's what you're going for. But who knows? In my Father's realm are many mansions. And it could be that you've left even that behind. But whatever it is, know that it'll be fine, and that it has been given to you by 100% grace and 100% works. No one has worked harder. No one has received more. It's a beautiful teaching that these two things are not either or, they're both and. So the only other thing I wanted to say is that to give you our own reassurance, my love, that if in the moment of that, if in the last days or weeks of hours of the physical process of the dissolution of your body, that you get in over your head, and that so far, your huge spirit has been taking every damn pitch they throw you and just batting it out of the ballpark. If that should cease, remember that we are here to hold your soul. That before we end today, we are going to deliberately, by two sacred rituals, put ourselves and our lives in your life, and put your life in our lives, so that there is no separation. And don't waste even a nanosecond if things get beyond what you can handle, thinking you failed or that your spiritual practice has fallen apart. Don't be afraid to yield 100%. Even into my God, why have you abandoned me? Because we will carry that may be yet another hurdle, but you are not going alone, and your soul is in each one of our souls. So simply continue to draw on these bottomless resources of love that surround you from our side and from the other side, to be vulnerable, to be trusting, and to be yourself. So I think that's all I would say. I've asked Helen if she can give us a little bit of teaching on what is this time like for you, Helen, as you live in this liminal space, and how can we assist?